Welcome to Spirit School. I'm Danielle Sarank, a medium and spiritual mentor and storyteller with over a decade experience, here to guide you through the profound intersections of spirituality, healing, and self-discovery. Spirit School is more than a podcast. It's a sanctuary, a place where you can connect with the wisdom of the unseen world, explore the depths of your own soul, and uncover the boundless life force energy within. Whether you're stepping into your spiritual gifts, navigating a healing journey, or seeking tools for a life filled with intention and meaning, you belong here. In each episode is a beacon of light, blending heartfelt stories, practical teachings, and reflections from my own path. Together, we'll celebrate the magic in the mundane and discover the extraordinary in everyday moments. Through Spirit School, we co-create a world where hope thrives, inspiration uplifts, and the power of spirit is undeniable. Welcome to Spirit School. Let's continue this journey of light and transformation together. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Spirit School. It's been a minute. I hope you're all doing amazing. If you don't mind just taking one breath with me to center ourselves into this conversation, take a deep breath in. And hold it because it feels so good. And exhale. And as you exhale, you loosen your jaw and rest your shoulders and sink deep into your seat. Maybe even activating a smile on your face and thinking of something you're incredibly grateful for in this moment. I'm grateful to be here with you. I wanted to talk a little bit today about change and transformation. I'm sure that we can see all around us in our personal lives and our collective lives that things are changing fast. I know different changes ignite different emotions, and I'm sure the changes so many of us have experienced in these past 5 years in particular have been both intimidating and exhilarating. And I'm personally going through a huge season of change right now and transformation and almost reflection and seeing how far I have come and almost appreciating the transition while it's happening, because I'm someone who has changed and transformed many times. Even some of you who have listened to the podcast for so many years have seen so many different versions of how I serve, the different ways that I serve, my business, my family life, my work-life balance, the adventures I've taken, the risks I've taken, the times I've chickened out and the times I've courageously said yes. All of that has been part of this Spirit School experience that has been around for 6+ years now. And thank you for witnessing. It's like 7+ years now. It's actually been quite some time. And I've gone through a lot of change, and I've been going through even more change now. So while I'm in it, I wanted to have a conversation around it because I know in the year of 2025, the time that I'm recording this, there are so many changes happening, and I know that part of our holistic well-being will require us to somehow, some way, stay grounded in the changes that are happening within and around us, personally and collectively. So my hope is by the end of this conversation, you hear a few experiences that I've had and you hear some different thoughts on it all that will resonate with you, that will maybe make you feel seen and validated, and hopefully leave this conversation with a few different insights and techniques on how you can stay as grounded as possible during some of the changes that we have that are blessings and some of them that are out of our control. The first thing I thought about when I wanted to speak on this topic were the signs that we know change is a-coming. Now, not everyone is an astrologer. I know the astrologers are like, I know, hands up in the air. But what I'm speaking about is the personal lived experience that we have when change is coming. And there's a joke I know in the spiritual community when it comes to numerology that 5 is always a signifier of change. And nobody can tell me who doesn't have awareness on that. When you look at a clock and it says 555 or a license plate says 555, you are often, depending where you're at in your life, like, no change. Or depending where you're at in life, maybe desiring and embracing change. Like, yes, okay, things are changing. And I have personally experienced the 555, experience to be akin to the Tower card in tarot, right? So if you're getting a reading or you're pulling yourself cards and you get the Tower, you know that you are in a season of change. So you get all these signs outside of yourself that, maybe that there's hints that I should be aware of some changes coming. And if you're not already physically experiencing discomfort will definitely come next, because typically we are not motivated in our human experience to make changes unless we are uncomfortable. And I know that might be hard to hear. I know for myself, I try my best to make really conscious changes when things are going well. As an example, in business, it's easy to let go of like a program or an offering, like if it doesn't sell and like if it doesn't go well. But actually taking time when you are safe, when you are in a place where you don't have to make these decisions, and you start looking at these decisions that you feel come up when your hand is forced, looking at those when you have the space. I actually consciously do that now because I've been in this cycle so much. You know what you need to change, because when you're put into that high pressure point of discomfort, you really want to change things. And it's usually what comes up in those uncomfortable times that should be looked at next, right? So maybe it's coming up with a relationship, maybe it's coming up with like a job, or potentially it's coming up with something in your business. Usually when we meet that pressure point, something will come up, and that something is the thing that we should probably look at first. So discomfort is definitely a sign that things are changing. I had a friend once say this amazing quote to me, because I remember being in this really uncomfortable season when I was really putting the Squamish Medium brand aside. And this was quite a few years ago, in the name of Spirit School, because the drama of two brands, and it's kind of three now because I assume my name, Danielle Sarank, everywhere now. It's kind of funny. It's almost like three brands. And I ran a poll on that in my Instagram. Like, how do you see me? When you hear me, do you think of Squamish Medium? Do you think of Spirit School? Do you think of Danielle Sarank? And it was completely three-way even. And I remember feeling pressure. I remember feeling discomfort. I remember feeling, do I go with all three? Do I pick one and go all into it? And it was a really uncomfortable thing for me. And I was like having a hard time identifying, am I medium? Am I teacher? Am I both? And you do kind of have these identity experiences. And my friend said to me, and she said, your crisis isn't an identity crisis. The crisis is your identity is changing. And I remember letting that sink, because it did feel like a before and after. It felt like a bit of an up level. It felt like I was asked to hold space in a different way. I was being visible in a very different way. I was almost being asked to step into almost a higher version of myself. I don't love hierarchies in my life, but a brighter version of myself, a more assured version of myself. And spoiler alert, I threw it all into Spirit School. And yeah, you'll hear how that went in a couple months. A lot of things to tell you, some really funny things, but that will come back and circle back in a later episode. I remember when I was contemplating leaving my corporate job. My God, it wasn't until like I was at this point of almost illness because the discomfort I felt being there, not because it wasn't a great place, but because I knew my soul wanted to be somewhere else. I knew my spirit was meant to be doing something else. I knew that there were opportunities for that big drastic change in my life leading up to it that would have been surrounded with more ease and grace, but it also would have required a lot more courage. And it just so happened I wasn't able to exercise that courage during that time. And it all worked out as it was meant to. And it just so happened that I needed to reach a high point of discomfort to be able to ultimately make that change. What I do like to tell you about that time, and if you're a long time listener, I actually started this podcast the week after my total breakdown around this. But the first time I quit my job to pursue my passion was after a health crisis. And a week after that health crisis is when I launched the Spirit School podcast. Talk about timing, because I wasn't wasting any more time. I'm like, no, I'm going to follow my dreams. And I ended up chickening out and going back to work. And then a year later, I stepped into the courage because I felt my pressure point. I felt that discomfort getting to a point of a health crisis again. I really did. And I had to stop and make a conscious choice. And I had to say, okay, am I going to be courageous to make the choice this time before I reach the point of illness? And it was actually my husband, because I actually don't even know if I had the courage then either. And my husband actually came up to me and he said, just take a go at this. Let's give it 6 months. He was like, because I don't want to lose you again. When I had that first anxiety attack at work and I was off for a few months, I couldn't even grocery shop. I couldn't even make a decision in the grocery aisle. I was pretty useless for the family. And my husband could see that cycle coming up again. And he was really encouraging me to take a step back before I reached that point again. So, take it from somebody who I know I appear to be courageous to the outer world, and I am, because I make courageous decisions. But for every courageous decisions, there was probably 10 experiences I chickened out and chose like the safe or the same type path. And so I am somebody who historically, up until honestly my mediumship journey and the development journey that is accompanied by the mediumship development journey, every decision in my life had to be forced upon me. I don't even think I broke up with anyone before. It was always like, no, I will stay in the discomfort until somebody makes this change for me. So change is something that I have really, truly been challenged with and begrudgingly stepping into. And now I'm at a point where some of these changes that are coming in that, Danielle of 5, 6, 7 years ago probably would have self-sabotaged. And I won't lie, even a little bit of self-sabotage did come up, even though I courageously still continued to step forward. I am somebody who, even if the change is uncomfortable now, I will still move through it consciously and not let myself get to a point where the proverbial rug gets swiped out from under me anymore. Because of exposure therapy, I think it's called. I'm always trying to reverse engineer things. And I'm like, how did you get better at doing this? Well, it was doing it often and a lot. How do you find your flow in speaking and riffing? Well, you just speak more and you riff more, and then it becomes more comfortable. How do you get comfortable in front of clients doing readings? Do more client readings and you will become more comfortable. I just heard that term, exposure therapy, not long ago. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what I have done on my path. So I am someone who knows that it's going to be uncomfortable making the change consciously or unconsciously. So really, what story do I want to carry on the other end is ultimately my deciding factor. And this is where I always have that teaching of fuck it. It's like, just fuck it, just do it. You're not going to regret it. Have fun, make the move, and choice and consequence, right? And that's something that I remember Caroline May saying like a decade or so ago when I listened to her teachings. It's like, the consequences of your current choice because you're living it. Can you accept that? Is that a path that you can continue forward? And usually I get to a point where I have to come up with a yes or a no to that question. Can I accept this answer? Yes or no? And if it's a no, I have to make another choice, which usually requires a big change. So to wrap that up, change can be very hard on your body. It can be hard on your health. It could be hard on your mental health. It could be hard on your physical health. So one of my big tips is, if you don't already have practices that center the well-being of your mental state and your physical state, post haste, find something. For me, I find I'm in times of really high visibility and high pressure at this time. And I also have people around me all the time. And so I don't get as much time now to contemplate, to do my breath work, to do my practices, to sit with spirit. So I'm having to condense what I used to do in a 90-minute time period into really just a minute or two. And I'm so happy to have these practices that have carried me that I can bring in a minute's notice, and only for a minute. And they support me, maybe not the same as a 90-minute session, but can get me through till the next time I could take a pause and take this breath. And I found that breath work has been the most effective healing modality for me. And I just do it intuitively myself, though I know that there's incredible breathwork facilitators out there. I find I get distracted sometimes with instructions. So I just kind of tune into what breath feels good and supportive. And I use breath to completely calm my nervous system, to calm my mind, to, even if I'm in a situation in front of a group, say I'm doing a group reading, and all of a sudden I have a panic moment, I can usually recenter myself in one breath. So because change can affect not just your physical reality, but your mental and nervous system state, having supportive tools for yourself are going to help you through any season of change. Whether this change is desired, a blessing, whether it's something that's forced upon you or happening around you and you have no control over, having these practices are paramount to sustaining yourself. In the collective, we have people, not me, but we have Leilani who does breath work. We have Will who does nervous system repair work. We have incredible people who are always holding like weekly and monthly circles so that you can have a little bit of a check-in. If this is an area that's important to you, but you don't have videos and spaces to go to, we have lots of replays up. Every month we release a calendar and you're able to like work your schedule around one of these sessions. I know I'm always catching the replays because they're very supportive for me and I learn a lot. Even from, the incredible people in the collective, I learned so much from them. So please do find things that support you. And during these times, so if we're already in that season of discomfort, if we're feeling like, okay, now we're in the void, now we're in the season of I'm aware I'm going through this change, but I don't know what is coming. And then you find yourself in this season of a void. And that void, for people who love to plan, hello Virgos, raise your hand. Capricorns, raise your hand, okay? You love a plan. You're going to hate the void. The void is a make or break space. I have seen so many people enter the void and like just bounce back to what they know is comfortable, not knowing that on the other side of the void is actually the thing you have been praying for. The void will make you panicked. The void is a time for me where I will go get 1,000 readings. Like, I can't make this decision on my own. I need someone to tell me what to do and where to do it and how to do it and when to do it. Right? Like giving away my power because I don't get a sense of my own power in the void, even though the power is the void. You're in the power. You're so in it, you can't sense it. You are it. I got shivers even thinking about that on my crown. And the void is what some may perceive as a dark night of the soul, whether that's a big DN or a little DN, however you want to determine that. But you're really in that place of, even sometimes in the void, I forget my spiritual tools. I forget about my breath. I forget that I could pray to spirit. It's like the void is dark and we need to go through it. It's almost like it should be a cocoon. It should actually be a time of rest. But I know that our human wants to take control where we can. So this is where we might try to control other people, or we might become hyper fixated, or, if like there's change happening around us we have no control over, you might be hyper focused on like the food you eat or the food other people are eating, or like where your kids are or where they're not. But you become hyper focused on micro things that become huge because you can't control them. These are the kind of behaviors that we find ourselves in the void. What I will tell you from a place of spiritual maturity is you can really tell how much you have progressed by how you behave in the void. And you're not always going to behave cute. Okay, it's not always going to be demure and cutesy. Okay, it's not. But I can tell when I'm in the void, oh man, I used to be in this state for a long time and now it's actually a short time. Or maybe I am behaving in a very mature way and I'm actually really proud of myself. I'm like, I can actually tell how far I've come in my healing journey because how I'm handling this season of the void. And then the change comes. Right? So once the void, we leave that space, we start to see the signs. We start to see 111. We start to see, names everywhere. We start to admire the flowers and the new leaves, and we start to see the eagles in the sky again. We start to admire stars and we see rainbows, and we become more aware of the world around us. Everything starts to come in color once more. And we start to get those synchronicities. Right? Synchronicities are a sign of alignment. You start to feel that alignment. And then all of a sudden, you stand taller. You start walking more confidently. You start making decisions again. You start wanting to go out, right? You start feeling a bit sparkly again. You can see the light in your eyes again. You start to take care of yourself better, right? You feel where I'm going with this. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this season of change, but watch out because it starts to become normal really quick. It starts to become your new normal really quick. And here's what I want to say to you. I want you to stay longer in the newness of the change. I want you to almost make an imprint. I make imprints all the time. I started doing it with my daughter was born and I was breastfeeding. Oh my God, I was an insufferable breastfeeder. I was like everywhere just whipping it out. And like I was very reserved before. And I remember just thinking, I didn't know if I was going to have a second kid. And I remember just looking at her and she was so cute. And I remember just taking like little Polaroids with my mind's eye and like on my heart though. And I was like, I want to remember this moment forever. And I tell you, when I stop and make an imprint of like an experience, I can recall it with such ease that I get to live it again because it's just another timeline, right? Right? Isn't that what my dimensional friends love to say? It's like I feel like I'm able to call back that timeline. And I tell you that vision of seeing my daughter, because the thing is when she would breastfeed, if I looked at her and made eye contact, she would smile. And if you've ever breastfed, you know that's not a great feeling. So it was just so cute. And I tell you, if I ever need to be happy in a moment, I just have to recall that imprint. So my advice to you is when you get to the other side of that void and you start to see the horizon again and the light comes back in, please stay in that. Light, warmth, synchronicity, stay in that like a child as long as you can. Make imprints of it, journal it, document it. We love to document things when things aren't going well, but we rarely find that encouragement to do it when things are thriving. And I only bring this as such an important point because the wheels of fortune are always turning. And we will find ourselves in this cycle of change until we go home. And unfortunately, as much as we want like the good to stay, we must know that we will be required to change again. And we're going to get more opportunities to find out who we are in the void. And we're going to continue to gather new tools and resources for ourselves that support us in this incredible human and spiritual experience. And, today, as I was reflecting on a lot of the changes I've made, I was thinking about how when I started this podcast, I was so scared. Some of you have heard these stories before, so just bear with me. But, the stage fright I used to have in front of people was real. So real, I can actually bring it back like an imprint now. That's how easy it is to remember the shit, right? I can actually feel how I used to feel and how much I avoided being seen, even though I haven't changed. Like I still talk the same. I still like have the same sense of humor. I still feel very much like the same person. I would only show that side of me to like one-on-one interactions with people. It was never like in a group. And so every time I was required to do it in front of groups, I really would self-sabotage. I remember, this could be the first time I confessed to this, guys. But I remember my mentor in my 4th year of development setting up a demonstration. I showed up for every psychic fair that she put on, and I did 9 readings every time, like back to back to back, like so courageous, right? And I love that format of development. And the one night she did the group reading, I was like, yeah, I'm coming. She's like, you're coming, right? I'm like, I'm coming for sure. I'm coming. And she's like, you're coming, right? I'm like, yep, I'm coming. Did I go? Nope. I didn't go. I did not go. I like my resistance to it. And when I started this podcast, right, we were celebrating a year before I even thought about doing my first group reading. That's how much they terrified me, being in front of groups, being sparkly in front of many rather than one-on-one. And a lot of my counterparts love doing group stuff. And I really love doing one-on-one stuff. But it was because I was really, really terrified. So all that to just kind of like set the lay of the land, like how scared I used to be. And then I started podcasting and exposure therapy, talking a lot in front of the mic. My podcast got longer, and there was a time where I didn't even have to pay for a platform because I couldn't podcast past 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever that threshold was. And then it came to a point where I would get to an hour. I'd be like, okay, I have to actually shave off like 10 minutes or I can't export this from Descript. Only the podcasters out there will get that. And it was really podcasting that really did help me. And, when I did decide to quit my job, I decided to do something else that scared me, something else that required change. And that was actually book my first group reading. And I actually booked and sold out my first group reading, and I sold out in one day, which was just wild to me because I only ever served Squamish. I mean, I had no international audience. It was just Squamish. It was just my kitchen table people. And I sold it out in like one day, and I quit my job a week later. Like that's how new all of this was to me. And then the pandemic happened right away, and I ended up secluded in my bedroom. So I only really did the 2 kind of group readings before the pandemic, and I didn't do them again until I filmed the TV pilot in 2023. And that was really funny because I stood in front of them. I was like, can you believe this is only my 3rd time doing this? And by this time I'd already been a known podcaster, an international teacher that people around the world kind of studied with, pretty in demand for my readings, like not to toot my own horn, but there were still things that challenged me and stretched me and required a piece of myself to embrace this change. And I found myself self-sabotaging every single time. So all this to say, leading into a little micro announcement, which I hope the powers that be will forgive me for sharing here. And I'm only going to share a little bit because only the collective knows, and only the collective is going to know. But around this time, when I decided to quit my job, when I decided to, do my first group reading, I had a dream, but it was a vision because it was during a meditation, but I got to a deep state. And Spirit showed me as like a 50-year-old woman with short hair. I had really short hair again, and I was standing on a stage. And I said to Spirit in that moment, I remember reflecting this back to them when they gave me that vision. I said, Spirit, you have the wrong girl. You have the wrong girl. And I said that exactly to them. So then I go through that next year and I do my first group reading. The whole pandemic happens. I end up doing really well in the online space because hello 2020 pandemic, was one of the biggest blessings almost of my whole life. And I started to become like a little bit more known, and, people were signing up for my stuff. It was really good. And I started being a little bit more visible, and I used to panic before every single class. And then I became a lot more confident before every single class. And teaching those classes in those early days in the collective in 2020 were paramount to me. I used to do 7 classes a month, and every single time I would get more and more confident. And a whole year later, the vision continued. I was in a meditation, and all of a sudden I was behind me on a stage, and I could see the audience and how big it was. And I remember saying, you have the wrong girl. And then I remember thinking, I'm not talking about mediumship. That's kind of interesting. I wonder what else I'm talking about, because I only define myself as a medium at the time. Go ahead a whole nother year. A whole new slew of things start happening. I start thinking about my first retreat. I start looking around for office space because we're starting to come out of our bedrooms now. And I'm actually kind of sick of being in my bedroom. Sorry for that loud noise. I just hit my mic. I'm not going to edit this podcast. I'm just going to post it so that you get it. Because every time I have to edit, you never get a podcast because it never happens. And so, then all of a sudden I get the third vision and I see myself actually enjoying being on a stage, and I see myself embracing it and seeing a version of myself that knows that she's worthy of being there. So just after that, I get reached out by these TV people wanting to do that pilot, and we shoot that pilot. And then that was the scariest thing I've ever done. And that was my third group reading. And, I think I did the best I could for sure, but didn't hear anything for about a year. So last December, I won the Chamber of Squamish, the Chamber of Squamish Indigenous Business Award, and Spirit School became recognized in the community as an incredible business, which was super honoring for me. And then the next day I found out that the TV show got greenlit. Okay. And so I myself right now am in a huge season of change and having to put into practice, because we just started the whole process this year. I cannot talk about it anywhere other than the collective contractually. So I wanted to bring that in because you've been following me on the podcast for many years. And the truth is I haven't podcasted a lot because I don't do well with a filter. I don't know how to hold things in. I talk for a living. And that's just me. It's just who I am. I love to share everything. So I wanted to share that was happening here and only here. And I'm really excited about it. And it's really making me put all of these lessons and teachings to practice. I felt my inner saboteur come up leading up to this. I could feel the void being so uncomfortable and having unhealthy coping mechanisms creep in, and needing to keep myself awake, needing to remind myself how far I have come. And then as I'm stepping literally into the spotlight, a place I never thought I would be in my entire career, and almost how ready I feel for this moment too, which is kind of surprising for me. I'm having to embrace such a sparkly version of myself. If you know anything about me in the podcast, historically, I have a really hard time seeing myself clearly. And all my beautiful, family in the collective who have been with me for so long always reflect back to me. They can see that part of me. And it's like, this is one of the first times I can really see myself clearly, without it being reflected back to me. And I don't know, that's a beautiful piece of change, isn't it? It's a big change from where I used to be. So I wanted to record this episode because I got an early day, and I have some childcare for about an extra half an hour. And I've just been dying to update my podcast listeners. And I feel like I haven't been here for a while, and there's so many reasons for that. Thank you for sticking with me through all that. And I will be back regularly one day. It's a very busy season of my life. And so if you want to know what's happening with it all, it's all in the collective this summer, vlogging and weekly updates. My podcasting, I'm not sure how consistent I'll be able to be over the summer, but I'm going to do my best. I ran a poll on my Spirit School platform. It's a free platform, but it's off social media, as you know. And I asked how people found me there, and by far and large, it's still the podcast. So I'm not giving up on the podcast. I think I want to be so present here that I have a hard time just doing it on the fly, or just pumping content out. I'm just not that person. So, the algorithms hate me for it, but thank you for sticking it out with me. And more to come eventually when I can start talking about it. But if you're keen about it and want to follow the journey, we have a seasonal pass in the membership now. It's a huge savings. I'm going to pop in the link below. It's like, come spend summer with us for $350. And I'm doing bi-weekly sessions. So I'll be doing like reading for the group and teaching, sharing some experiences. I can't share about storylines or anything, and I don't want to. I want everyone to be surprised. But obviously, people are so curious how I'm handling a skeptical husband, 2 kids on summer break, the schedule that I have. There's a lot going on. And so people are watching with a very keen eye how I'm embracing all these changes. So expect this to be a part 1. I'll probably let you know once everything hits the air, how I handled it all and how I'm embracing this new seasons of change. But I can tell you right now that I'm very proud of myself. And I don't know if I've ever said that. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to leave you with it. And if I don't hear from you before fall, I want you to know I adore you. Please look back at some past episodes if you're missing some of the teachings. And yeah, have a great week. Thank you for joining me on Spirit School today, friends. I am so grateful for this time that we spent together exploring the power of spirit, the depths of healing, and the magic of self-discovery. My hope is that each episode leaves you feeling inspired, empowered, and connected to the boundless energy of your own soul. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to take the next step on your journey by joining me in the Spirit School community. Inside, you'll find a vibrant space filled with like-minded souls, access to exclusive teachings, live mentorship opportunities, and the support to deepen your trust in your spiritual gifts while embracing your humanity. Visit myspiritschool.com to learn more and become part of this growing family of seekers and light bringers. Let's continue to co-create a rich life with spirit, love, and purpose together. Until next time, keep shining your light and walking your soul's path. Take care, my friends, and be well.